back to Between Us Girlies. I'm Bailey.
I'm Casey.
I'm Bran.
And I'm Lindsay.
And this week, we asked the viewers to ask some questions about life, friends, dating advice, anything. So, best of luck because we are not trained professionals. So please take this advice and go with it.
Yeah, why anyone would trust us with their questions. We're
know.
going to give you our best effort.
For real. So to start off, we have lovely questions about friends. And so I'm going to ask the first question. If you guys want to chime in with your answers, that'd be lovely. So how to decide if you should be roommates with a friend?
Well, I think this is a good question because Casey and Bailey live together and me and Lindsay live together currently. And I feel like we were all very successful as roommates. I would say if you're thinking about living with a friend, I think there's two things to consider. It's one, what are your like habits that piss you off? Like habits, like living habits. Like if it's something that, you know, people leave the dishes in the sink, is that going to get you angry? What are the things that make you angry? And do you think that the friend you're potentially living with can like trigger those pain points? And also think about like the things about your friendship that like maybe aren't your favorite, and like what do you typically fight about, if anything, with that friend, and like how can being a roommate impact that?
Yeah. I feel like it's also like keeping in mind, like, are you able to separate friendship and roommates with this person? Because like you're going to have to pay bills and things might be late, or there's certain roommate business things you have to do. So like, are you able to separate your friendship and handle those things so that your friendship can remain what it is and you can be healthy roommates?
Yeah.
Right.
Like, I think with me and Lindsay, like, the only thing we would ever fight about before we were roommates is Lindsay would always, like, cancel plans. And now that we live together, I never fight with her about that because I'll see in her head, I'm like, oh, she's about to say she doesn't want to do this anymore. And it's great because I don't waste my time getting ready anymore. I'm like, I'm just going to go to her room and see if she still wants to do this. And she's like, I don't feel like it. I'm like, great. I can go on with my day now. So that really helped our friendship, honestly.
Right. And me and Casey, we also lived with other friends before and that things don't work out. But me and Casey also had such opposite schedules where it just worked out perfectly too.
Like that worked for our personalities.
Yeah, it did. But I think it does look enticing to live with your friends, especially post-graduation. But just please keep all of this in mind as well, because I've seen very ugly just downfalls and breakups of friendships.
Also,
No, you're good. Go.
Also, make sure that you know your friend. Like, I know Brandon inside and out, and I know if, like, something hits the fan with a guy or another friend or my family, like, it doesn't matter what I come to the house with. He's there to support me and be there and be a good friend, and I would do the same for him. But, like, we have some friends who I couldn't imagine living with because of how they are as people outside of, like, it's not just your friend, it's them as a person. So make sure you know them inside and out.
That's a good point.
Well, speaking of canceling plans, that kind of leads to the next question. So someone asked, my friends always guilt trip me when I can't go out with her, usually last minute. What do I do?
I think it's because this person said like usually last minute, like you kind of have to say to your friend, like, listen, it's not that I don't want to hang out with you. You just kind of give me late notice. And I have a really busy life and I would love to dedicate time to seeing you. But unfortunately, like, I need you to help accommodate my schedule. Like, give me like a notice, like, hey, I want to go out this weekend. Can you? And then you won't feel like I'm constantly saying no.
Also, in the area of guilt tripping, as Brandon mentioned, I'm the queen of canceling plans, making excuses, saying absolutely not. Stand your ground. If you're feeling guilty about something, don't internalize that. If you don't want to do something, you are grown and sexy. You have the ability to say no, and you should. And if your friend doesn't respect that, she doesn't respect you. And that's not a good friend.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I think asking so last minute too is kind of just a lack of respect. And it also seems like it's the last option. If it's always last minute and they're guilt tripping you, it just seems like, just take that into account.
Yeah. Also, if you're canceling plans, like,
Why'd you look at me?
You know what? Because this is but honesty really is like the best policy, and that's so much easier said than done. But sometimes just texting your friends and being like, I am not in a good mental place. Like, I don't want to go out, or I had a really bad work day, or I'm dealing with something outside of my life. Like, it's so easy to be like, oh, I'm just a little tired. And it's like, no, be real with your friends, and they'll probably understand better that like, oh, she's not canceling because of this. She's canceling because she's actually not having a good work week or whatever it is. So I think that's a good thing to try for the new year, is like being direct and honest with that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Someone asked, and I would love to hear your guys' take on this because people always ask me this on TikTok and I never like really know what to say, is advice on making friends in the city. And I feel like I'm so privileged to the point, like, I grew up in the suburbs and then I went to college here. So I've never had to really like be in a position where I needed to branch out. Like I had friends from high school, I had friends from elementary school, I had friends from college, like, but I never know how to answer that. Like, what do you guys think are the best ways for making friends in either a new city or the city that you currently live in?
I think, and this is a hot take because there's a lot of crazies in the world, but Philly has something called Philly Queens on Facebook, and it is just a mass group with like all ages, all shapes, all sizes, all races of just girlies, gays, and theys in the group where you can just kind of figure out what's going on. So somebody might post something like, what's everybody doing this weekend? Or best places to go out and dance? Or does anybody want to go to Taylor Swift's concert with me? I bought one ticket, but I need another person. Like those groups are really good. And like another thing, so Brandon and I live in one of the cities or one of the towns in Brandon and I live in Fishtown. I don't know what was going on there. And one of the girls we know in just like a mutual like friend and follower, honestly, started this group called Ladies of Fishtown. And she just is so on it. Like I appreciate her and like this whole group that she's created, just branching out and like creating events and safe spaces for people to go and like meet friends. So.
Yeah. I also think if you live in an apartment building as well, it's good to like know your neighbors. I know my apartment building uses an app that everyone in the building can connect to, and I know there's like free yoga nights, game nights, so I think take advantage of that. And I think also it's hard because you don't want to like talk to your neighbors sometimes, but I think that's a good little tidbit.
Yeah.
Also be a mooch. Like I think it's so fun when you're around, like let's say you have one friend in the city but they have tons of friends. Connecting with someone and like being more extroverted when you get the opportunity to hang out with them could be a great opportunity for you to meet people who are like you and kind of like not friend stealing, but just picking up people who mutuals, you know?
Yeah. Meet people through other people. And like, I think the hardest part is, but it's so true, you only need one friend. And to Lindsay's point, like, because that one friend can then introduce you to their one friend. Like, at some point, and I think this is the issue that I have when people ask me this question, a lot of people are like, but I have too much anxiety. Like, I have too much social anxiety. Like, I get in my head, I'm like, I get it. But at some point, you have to, like, you just have to do it. You have to like push yourself out of a comfort zone a little bit and be like, I'm going to start a conversation with this person. And sometimes it doesn't end up anywhere and you're like, oh, that was awkward. But sometimes it's like, wait, we just had a whole conversation and now I'm going to get drinks with them next week. And then boom, you meet them and you meet 3 other people through them.
So how do you deal with a girlfriend who you find out secretly hates you and is jealous of you? Who wants to take that?
I think okay. This might be bad advice, but number 1, 2 words. Gatekeep everything. When you have a friend who is jealous of you, they are going to try to steal everything you do. And a lot of people are like, just stop being friends with that person. I know that case by case, that is not so simple sometimes. They might be really intertwined in your life, really intertwined in your friend group. You might be able to figure out a way to put boundaries with that person. That's the number 1 advice, is set boundaries. But a lot of times you got to just stop opening your mouth and telling them things that you are doing. And I know that that feels so like not the right thing to do because it's your friend. You should be able to like tell them about the exciting things going on in your life. But these people who secretly hate you and are jealous of you, 1, I find that they copy you all the time because they want to wear your skin. They hate you. They want to become you. So stop telling them about all the shit you're doing because they're going to try to steal some shit from you. Number 1, I promise you that always happens with these people. But yeah, I think the main thing is you need to set boundaries. And like, if you can't totally cut that friend off and drop them as a friend, you need to limit them in your circle as much as you can. Otherwise, they will start penetrating your personal bubble to a point where it's going to like consume you.
Right.
Yeah.
I thought of it. Also, I don't know if this would work, but do you think talking to that person and finding out what the root of it is would eventually solve this? Like, what is it that I'm making you jealous of? Like, what is it deep down? I feel like talking to your friend, maybe?
I think that kind of goes to what I was going to say is like, I think hate and jealous are 2 very different things. And I think you need to decipher which one is it because they can.
Wow, excellent point.
Yeah, like they can be jealous of you and love you. And then you just need to be like, okay, I'm just not going to share, like what Brandon said, I'm not going to share certain aspects of my life with them because they're jealous of how far I am at work or how far I'm getting in other things. But if they actually hate you, like they literally don't like you, you can't come back from that.
Yeah.
Like, how are you going to recover from somebody just being like, nope, I hate you?
That's
I
true.
think like something that, and like this isn't a jealous group, like we're all very loving here, but like sometimes we'll roast each other. Like if you're confident in a friendship, you can say like, Brandon, I hate that you spoke to me like that. Casey, I hate that you didn't invite me to that. Bailey, I hate that you know what?
You ain't got nothing to say.
But if, again, like Casey said, if that person, like, if you feel genuine hate, it is a slow thing that you need to do. And in listening to Brandon with that boundaries, slowly move them from plan A to B to C to D until they're out of the alphabet. You do not have to have a person in your life like that. It's a toxic cancer.
I will say too, with those people, like if you notice that it is not changing and the situation is not getting better, a conversation is eventually inevitable. And you can literally just say, do you even like me? And this goes for dating too. Like if you're with a partner that you feel like low-key hates you, putting it on them and being like, do you even like me because you give me these looks, you say these things when I talk. Like, why are you friends with me? And then kind of make them almost think about what they do like about you because they're still your friend. And you can kind of then like turn the tables. And after that, I find that these people like, they're like, oh shit, like I'm not slick. Like this person knows I don't fuck with them. And if I want to be their friend, I got to start being nicer to them type of situation.
Yeah. Wow, guys.
Yeah,
That was a good one.
So
I will say all four of us are experienced in that category.
Yeah.
With guys and girls.
Last one to round out friends. How to make friends when you don't go out and drink.
Well, number one, and I personally don't do this, but I've heard from so many people, workout classes I've heard are like an amazing way to start meeting friends. They're also a really good activity if you have friends but you want to hang out with them and not drinking capacities. It's like, hey, can we actually like go to yoga this week instead? Or today I like sat and met up with a friend and we just got coffee. And I know that that's not easy to do if you work a 9 to 5 in an office, but like even on a weekend, it's like, hey, instead of on Saturday like going out and getting happy hour, could we actually just meet at a coffee shop at like 11 a.m. and just like hang out and talk? And like there's no emphasis on like drinking alcohol. But I really like, I personally don't do workout classes. That's not been my thing, but I know so many people who like, when I'm like, how did you and that person meet? They're like, oh, we went to the same bar studio and like became friends through that. Cause it is like a community building thing.
But also getting involved, like Brandon's boyfriend Josue did Italian classes for a little. And I thought that was so cute because you're around like-minded people. It's an activity that you sign up for. So it's like, why not meet friends in like niche interest spaces?
Yeah. This is like partially bad advice because I know that drinking is really rooted in this, but in Philadelphia, like the kickball leagues and stuff, and I know a lot of times people drink before or after the game, but you don't have to.
Yeah, you don't have to.
But that's still
Within
another cool way to like meet friends or hang out with your current friends and doing something different other than going to the bars.
That's so true. I totally forgot me and Lindsay did a kickball team. And I met a few of our like good friends now, and I just realized I met them through kickball, and I would have never done that, but I did it through mutual friends. So yeah, definitely get out there.
And it's not even like, you can do other sports. It's called Heyday Sports for anyone who wants to Google it. It's in multiple different areas, not just Philly. So
And I think too with that, like if you have something totally against going out, that's one thing, but don't be afraid to go out and not drink. Like you can go out with your friends, and the first few people you talk to at the pregame might be a little awkward because it's just like our society's nature to be like, why aren't you drinking tonight? But once you get past that, no one cares as much as you do. So like just being like, hey, I'm not in the mood to drink, and you can still go out, and maybe you don't last all night. Maybe you don't go to this and that bar, but like you can still be a part of the social aspect of it without having to drink.
And if someone cares that you're not drinking, run away because those people are freaks.
Yeah. Grown ass age.
Yeah.
Okay, well that wraps up our like friendship questions. Now we're going into like dating, and this first one is crazy because I actually really experienced something like this. But the question is it anxiety or intuition that's telling me that my boyfriend is going to cheat and leave? So I went through this period. Thankfully I'm out of it. I've seen the light. But I went through this almost like 2-month period where every single night I had a dream that my boyfriend was cheating on me. Every single night. I could not go to sleep and not wake up thinking he was going to cheat on me. And I would wake up and I would be like mad at him, but completely with no regards because like he was not doing anything. My boyfriend is not cheating on me. Like you guys all know him. He's not that type. And I really had to like realize that it was just my anxiety and my fear of like him leaving. So it was almost easier for like my brain to be like, nope, he's just going to cheat on you, than the like actual realization like something like this could end. But I was looking over these questions and I really thought about this one. And I feel like you as the listener need to have like an honest conversation with yourself and be like, for whatever reason it is that you think he's going to cheat on you, whether you think he's being shady with a friend or a coworker, or maybe you see messages on his phone. If you ask him that, are you able to justify his answers? Like whatever his answer is, could you go then and tell your best friend, hey, remember how I was telling you, I saw a message on his phone that was bothering me? Well, I asked him about it and he said it's actually just his neighbor. Like if their reasoning is legit and you're comfortable telling your friends that, then I think it's your anxiety. But if his reasoning is like, oh, it's this girl from the gym or, whatever it is, if their reasoning is not actually legit and you're not comfortable telling your friends that, then it's probably intuition.
Yeah, if the story isn't sold on you, don't try to sell it to others.
Right.
But also trust your gut. Like I had an ex-boyfriend hit me up probably a year and a half ago, and I had been asking him about a girl for several years. And I guess it was just eating him to a point where we're not friends, but I guess it was just eating him to a point where he was like, I have to tell this girl. And deep down I was like, I always knew this. So it's like, trust your intuition always. Like if you feel it, it's probably right. If your boyfriend's shady. But
no, I agree. Like when I was dealing with the anxiety versus intuition, I like deep down knew it wasn't intuition.
Yeah.
Like I knew. I was just like, he's just not. It's literally my anxiety. And like I think we all know, like you're saying, it's your intuition. So like if you've got that feeling, it's a hard conversation to have with yourself, but you probably should have it.
And you're not crazy. You are not crazy if you bring it up. If you feel it, you can speak on it. If you're in a healthy space, the person should be receptive to what you're asking and saying.
Yeah.
Without
I was going to say, you made a good point last episode too about like past trauma from other relationships. So that maybe also had a factor into like your dreams and intuition and anxiety as well.
Yeah. And definitely like the people you keep around you too. It's so funny because I posted that on TikTok and all the comments were like, what shows are you watching? Are your friends going through this? And I was like, at the moment I was watching Insecure when they were being cheated on, and like maybe that had something to do with it. But if your friends are in really toxic situations, that might be bleeding into what you're thinking.
Sorry.
I think this goes really well with the next question, which is how to feel more secure in your relationship and less jealous. I have an issue with the piece of advice I'm about to give because I never think you should blame others, but I do think that this is an issue that your partner also I feel safe and secure in my relationship and I don't feel jealous, honestly, because I know Josue would never cheat on me. That's just someone who we have that, I feel very safe in that relationship. There's never been a point in my life where I felt like you're going to do something with somebody else. I've never felt like that. So it might not necessarily be there's a difference between being a jealous person and a person that is almost made to feel insecure because of who they're dating. You know what I mean? It's a hard distinction, and I never want to blame the other person, but if someone is being you have an intuition and a suspicion and they're constantly doing things that are making you act that way, where it's they're hiding their phone or they're going out of their way to not tell you what they're doing later. It's they tell you that they can't hang out, but they won't give you a reason. Then I would be well, I wonder if they're up to something shady. And then if you're getting insecure and jealous, I feel that's usually a product of someone else kind of making you feel that way sometimes.
That's on them. That is not on you, especially if you're a secure person yourself and you're confident in you. It's it's really frustrating to have that other person. Honestly, it's their insecurities that are just being projected onto you that's making you seem crazy. In terms of jealousy, though, I think that's completely different because jealousy is something internal. Yeah. When you long for something that that person, I guess, has. So it's again, y'all are completely right with the insecurity piece. I just feel jealousy is something that needs to be worked on within you, and insecurity can in the way that you guys just talked about it, when it's projection from that person, because to be completely candid, I have 100% allowed people I've dated to make me feel insecure about things that I am not insecure about. I'm a very secure person, but I've never felt jealous of that person's plans, that person's friends. I don't care about those things. I care about that person. So it's I like to separate insecurity and jealousy, if that makes sense.
No, that's a good point.
Yeah.
They're both terrible.
Yeah, they're both not fun feelings.
Fun times.
Also, if there's a little thing that the person you're dating does that really triggers this response, I know we're going to get to this, but if they're liking girls' Instagram photos, I don't think it's a necessarily bad thing to be hey, ease my anxiety here. These Instagram photos that you're liking, they're thoughtless, right? You're not liking these because you want to fuck this girl, right? Can we talk about this? I don't want to sound crazy, but it's bothering me a little bit. If my partner said that to me and was I noticed you like all these guys' photos, I would have one of two conversations. I would want to be why is it bothering you, and try to like dig deeper into what's causing it to upset them. But also if it's bothering you that much, like I won't do it anymore. It's like, if you want me to stop liking those photos, and I know that might sound toxic, I don't mean that to sound toxic, like do what you want to do, but like if there's a little change that someone can make to make you feel better, I think that's a sign of a great relationship, when someone's very easy to work with. Like, okay, if that's bothering you, I'm gonna stop doing that. Like, if my boyfriend was like, it bothers me when you like put other guys on your TikTok, I would be like, okay, done. I'm not doing it anymore. It's not that important to me. It's when it is something that's like, oh, but I kind of like really do enjoy doing that. Why is it bothering you? Then it becomes a bigger conversation.
And if you can get through that conversation, then I think that's how
come
you know
out
it's a good
stronger.
relationship. Yeah. Like if you can have something back and be like, hey, I actually really do like to do this, or this is my reasoning, and they can understand you and you guys can come to a common ground, then I think you're in a good place.
Relationship.
Let's have Brandon and Casey.
Yeah. I feel like
Brandon, you
you
wanna
guys
go
got
first?
that.
Peaceful, honestly. And I think that was the big learning. I think there's a difference between being in a peaceful relationship and a boring relationship. You can be in a healthy relationship and still feel excitement, whether it's excitement over plans, excitement in the bedroom, like excitement just throughout. Like, I'm so excited to see that person. I think if you're feeling bored, that's a different story. But like, when I started talking to Josue, it felt so different from anything else because I wasn't like stressed about it. My day wasn't dependent on him texting me back. That was it never has been. It was like, oh, he texted me, like exciting, but not like, oh my God, he texted me. And I feel like in every toxic relationship that I've been in, or situationship, whatever you want to call it, it's always like, you feel anxious, and it's like, oh, he hasn't talked to me. Like, what if he's gonna dump me? Like, what? I don't feel that way in my current like healthy relationship. I'm just like, if there's an issue, Josue will come to me and we'll talk about it. And if I have an issue, I'll go to Josue and we'll talk about it. It's never like a, oh my God, like guys, I think I fucked this up, or I'm so nervous, he hasn't talked to me in a few days. Like, I'm gonna be honest, and this isn't for everybody. I feel like I look back at old versions of myself and I'm like, I was kind of desperate. Like, that was like so embarrassing that like I was sick over like a guy that literally didn't care if I breathed or died. Like, I was just like, babe, like, know your worth. And now I feel like really nice in a relationship where I'm like, I would rather be alone than be with someone that makes me feel awful. And it's hard in the moment because you don't recognize that they're making you feel that way. You recognize it as like, no, I get happy when they text me, so they make me happy. But it's like, no. You need to figure out how to make yourself happy. If you keep putting your own mental health dependent on others, you're going to fail every time.
And I don't even think you realize that you don't know your worth until you're in a healthy relationship, because I agree completely. Like, I look back and how I let like old situationships fling me around for years, and I'm like, oh my God, now that I'm with someone who like loves me and cares about me, like how did I be okay with that? And I think that relates to like my answer for this is, I think being in a healthy relationship just makes you a better person. Like, your relationship should bring out the best version of you. And if you feel like you have toxic tendencies that your partner's bringing out, then that might not be a healthy relationship. Like, for a good and bad, I have learned so much about myself in this relationship. I've learned things I'm really good at and things I'm really bad at, and things that my boyfriend was like, hey, why do you do that? That's not how you should be. And it took a moment to be like, at first I was like, why is he calling me out on this? And then I was like, no, he loves me and wants me to be a good person, and he wants something out of this relationship just like I do. So if we both come at this like, hey, we want to be together forever, how can we make that work for the both of us? Like, you both become the best version of yourselves. I think that's what, for me at least, a healthy relationship has been.
Yeah.
Damn, I need a man. Oh, wow. Oh, is it my turn to read?
It is.
Thoughts about your boyfriend liking pics and following Instagram models, random girls, hot girls, and influencers. It's funny because I actually just saw a TikTok today about micro cheating. And yeah, and it was like this. I should have brought it up. It was this, saying that you're confiding in another like opposite sex to talk about things, or making a Tinder profile while you're still in a relationship, like little things like micro cheating. And like you said earlier, if your partner doesn't like that, don't do it. Because it's also just, I mean, social media is a big factor in relationships these days, and I will stop right there because I'm not in a relationship. So if you guys could.
No, I think the one thing I saw a TikTok about was like, this girl made a TikTok and she was like, I don't care if you as the girlfriend don't care that your boyfriend's liking random girls' pictures. I, as the random girl whose picture he is liking, care.
Wow.
I am clocking when your boyfriend likes my photo. I think it's weird. I think it's weird when your boyfriend DMs me on something that doesn't relate. And it was just this moment where she was like, I'm a girl's girl. You might not get bothered by it, but I think it's really weird if I'm scrolling on Instagram and I see Bailey's boyfriend liking some picture that he's not supposed to like. Like those, so if maybe you don't get bothered by it, I think other people notice, at least I know I do.
Yeah.
So like, I don't know.
That's a good point.
I don't know what advice to give about that, but I definitely like.
I have so many different opinions on this, and
I
I'll
do
just
too.
share a few. Okay, number one, the photo is important, how they said bikini photo. If it's a hot girl, but it's a picture of her with her whole family on Thanksgiving in front of their house with their golden retriever dog, that's cute. You can like it. If it's a picture of her ass, like bikini, she pulled it up, it was taken lower, you could tell her girlfriend was getting the angles in the beach, I might be a little pressed that you liked that. I might be like, Here's the issue. It's embarrassing because it's public. Just how the girl who posted it knows your man liked it, the people who follow her and know you know your man liked that. And that's kind of where I'm like, does that in turn almost make it disrespectful? Because it's not like you're watching a movie in your own, which I'm not saying is great either, but like you're watching something in the comfort of your own home and no one else knows you're doing it. But it's like Instagram and social media is very public. So it's like you're not just showing her that you like the photo, you're showing everybody, including the person you're dating. So I think that part's rough. But I also am a mindless Instagram scroller. If you put a PowerPoint up right now and it was like life or death, did you like this photo or not? Call the funeral home. I don't know when I like photos. Sometimes I just mindlessly, I'll like literally look and be like, why did I just like that? I don't even know who this girl is. And then I'll be like, wait, why do I follow her? How do I know her? So sometimes it really is mindless, but a pattern is a pattern. If it is a consistent thing, I think there's something sus going on there.
And you can notice that with followers too. Like if the guy you're talking to or girl you're talking to is following a bunch of gym girl accounts, well, why don't you know? Why are you being friends with random people on the internet that you don't know? And it's like, if they can't give you an answer that's good enough, then better than I don't know, like that's inappropriate. Like,
Yeah.
And I think that sometimes we also get distracted, especially with the gym, because I love fitness. Like I don't love fitness to do it, but I love fitness to watch it. Like there is nothing better than seeing a transformation of like a person or watching a workout. Like I had a trainer for a while and he's a very like buff, nice young man. And it's like, I could see girls liking his photos because he's handsome and he's built.
Sure is.
But I wasn't liking his photos for that. I can give credit where it's due, but I genuinely loved to be like, oh, what's he eating today? What's he doing today? So it's like, try to, again, it goes back to insecurities. Like, make sure that you're not being upset over the wrong things. But, like, if it's, like, my glute workout for some hot girl in biker shorts, it's like, why did my man like that? You
I
know?
also think it's another example of, like, ask them. Be like, why'd you like this photo? And how they respond can make or break the difference of the outcome. If they're, like, kind of defensive and almost dismissive, like, why do you care? Or, like, it doesn't matter, I just liked the photo. Like, that is weird. But if they kind of almost like, because she looks good. I mean, she's been working out. She looks popping. I was just trying to preach her up. I know it took balls to post that selfie. I'll kind of be like, you know what? You're right. She does look good. I fuck with that. But if you're like acting weird, then it is weird.
One rule my boyfriend and I have in our relationship is we are not allowed to say it's not that deep because it is deep to the person who's bringing it up. It's yeah, and it's like our rule. Like if I bring something up, he can be like, Casey, it is not that deep. Like really, because it is to me. That's why I brought it up.
Yeah.
So if you think it's deep enough that you're bringing it up to your boyfriend and they brush you off, that's a red flag.
I actually want
excellent.
to talk about that. I feel this is a sidebar, but I feel like it's important. It's not that deep. I feel like that went from a phrase we use to like almost try to help people, like, don't stress about it, it's not that deep, you'll figure it out, to it becoming such a gaslighty term. Like, it's not that deep, Brandon, it's not that deep. Like, if I'm upset about something, it doesn't matter if it's deep to you, it's deep to me. Like, I hate when people, there's a certain person that always loves to, I know when I get in a fight with this person, that's the first 3 words they're gonna say, and it's to the point where I don't even try to fight with them anymore because it's just like, whatever. You don't get it.
It's also so invalidating to someone's feelings.
That's what it
It's
is.
like, I just sat here and told you how I felt, and you're going to tell me, basically, I don't care, shut up, idiot. Like, it's like, That's insane. I like that a lot. We should do that with this friend group too.
Yeah.
No more, it's not that deep. Not that I would ever do that or any of you
I don't
would
think we
ever
ever
do
say
that to each
Yeah.
other.
But it is a good rule.
That's
I like
a really
that.
good rule.
Okay, so this next one. Do I have the what are we talk? It's been 3.5 months. And I think this can go for anything, you know, any amount of time under that too. Like, when do you start to define the relationship?
It's case by case.
Mm-hmm.
I do think 3.5 months is an appropriate time to. It doesn't have, the thing with the what are we talking, people, like, it doesn't need to be what are we. It could even be a more of what are we doing? And I feel like that makes it a little more casual. Be like, all right, so what's the tea? Like, it could be a casual conversation. We've been doing this for like 3.5 months. Do we want to like keep having it out, or should I like start seeing other people? Like, put the ball in their court and be like, whoa, like, it's sometimes if you have anxiety about having like really like intense conversations with people, my number one advice is figure out a way to make it more casual, but still like get the important message across. But I think 3.5 months is a long enough time to establish whether you like somebody and also want to pursue things further. If I'm talking to someone for 3.5 months and they're like, hey, what are we? I'm not going to be like, you're crazy for asking. That's too soon. I think that's at a very appropriate amount of time. It's a quarter of a year.
Yeah, I think you can also put, kind of similar to what you're saying, making it more casual. You can put testers out. Like, you know, if you guys have only been going on dates and seeing each other, you could be like, hey, my best friend's having a party this weekend. Would you want to come with me? And if their answer is like, oh, I can't, and it seems like they're railing on you, maybe, you know, have that gauge where you're at. But if they're like, sure, I want to come, it's like, okay, that's 1 point for them. And start asking these like simple tester questions. And I think you'll find an answer. And once you feel like you have enough to be like confidently asking them, what are we? Then I think you can go ahead and ask.
Let's move on to some single life questions. We've all been single. How to get over a situationship? I don't know if any of
Are
us
we the
can
best group to-
successfully answer
Nope.
that.
Let's skip it.
I was going to say one thing, and this is my only advice, and I know it's not easy, and I didn't believe it either, or I didn't take my own advice for a very long time, but like, you really do have to just cut them out of your life, because like, there is just no point where if they were never your boyfriend, there is no point where they can exist in your life. Like, if they were your boyfriend, maybe they know your family and maybe you can still keep them up to date with certain things. But if you were never dating and it was a situationship, you have to cut them out of your life. And it doesn't have to be forever, but you have to do it.
The most painful thing I ever read, and I'm so sorry to everybody who has to hear this because it hurt me. A situationship is a situation to one person and nothing to the other. And
It sure is.
and what you have to realize
no.
that is when something is nothing to somebody, they don't feel a pressure to end it because they don't care about you. It's like if they're like, all right, I'll hang out with this person tonight. I don't really care. I don't have any feelings about it. You can never expect them to end it because they don't care. You're the one who cares. And unfortunately, it puts you in that position where it's like, you need to find a way to cut it off, whether it's cold turkey or, you know, one day you just decide to block them or everything. I really do think that's the most effective method. I will never forget this, the day I finally cut off my situationship, a week later I met my boyfriend.
Oh,
And
wow.
that was the craziest thing in the world. Literally, I felt like it was the universe being like, finally, bitch, we'll reward you now. You took long enough, you stupid whore. Here you go.
All right. So this is kind of a guy-girl question. We got asked, how do you meet guys in the city and how do you meet girls in the city? And I think that they're kind of the same, but I don't know if anybody wants to jump into that.
Well, I think it depends on the quality of person you're looking to meet. If you just want to meet a girl or a guy, you have plenty of options. But I will say this. I feel like I spent so much of my life thinking that I was going to meet like somebody while I was out. And I did. But I didn't meet my boyfriend at like a packed bar on a Saturday night where I was in a bottle service table. Like, that definitely has probably happened to several people out there. It wasn't for me. But start putting yourself in situations where like you can actually meet people and conversate with them. I met my boyfriend at an elevated restaurant bar. I think hotel bars are an amazing place to meet people.
Yeah.
People, sometimes they're visiting, but still that's like fun.
Work trips.
Yeah. Like, I think there's
Weddings.
different situations you can put people in. Weddings is a good one.
Yeah, don't be afraid to outsource. Like, if If your
Yeah.
friend's friend is going to a party and it's a group of people you never met, go. Like that's how I met my boyfriend, was going to an event that Brandon took me to, and I met him through a friend. But like, I don't know, sometimes your connections are like a few degrees down from the people you know.
Yeah.
Controlling boundaries and emotions with hookups and dates. Unfortunately for me, I love too hard. So I don't have those boundaries. I don't. I really don't.
I don't know. I think you do have
Oh yeah, I guess
like
so.
some good boundaries. For one random instance, I remember when we lived together in Manayunk, a guy came over and he was like trying to stay the next morning for so long, and I was so anxious because I did not like him and I did not want him there. And Bailey literally goes, "Then tell him to leave." And I was like, "Oh." And she was like, "No, if you don't want him there, like you don't have to have somebody here just to be nice." And I feel like that was a boundary that I never thought I could set. Like, "Oh, I always have to be nice." And you were like, "No, sometimes it's okay to not have to be nice. Like if you don't want them there, they can leave."
Yeah. I guess I'm just that type of person where I'm just very straightforward. I guess that's why I'm like, oh, I don't really have the boundaries, but I guess I really do.
Yeah, you're nuts.
Yeah,
you have more boundaries.
Very
than
good
anyone in this
boundaries.
room.
Yeah.
In fact, your boundaries are so strong. If you don't want to do it, you're not going to do it. And if you do want to do it, you are unapologetic about the fact that you did it, you're going to do it, or you are planning to do
Or
it.
already did it.
Or already
you're
did
right.
it.
I think just put your foot down. If you don't like something, don't do it. If you don't want someone to sleep over, don't let them sleep over. I remember you used to like, oh, I have to drive this person home in the morning. I'm like, no, you don't. Have them cut you an Uber. Like nothing is your responsibility until you are actually dating that person.
Or if you want to. It is all about you, sister. If you want to do it, pop off. If you don't, then you don't. And it is okay to communicate that.
Yeah, and I think the key word is the question starts with being single. You're single. That's the best part about being single. You don't owe the person that you're dating or hooking up with anything.
Yeah. All right, guys. Because I do have boundaries.
Bailey with the bound.
Kind of in line with that. So what to do if we aren't about the casual situationship life? So how do we set boundaries if we're not about this situationship vibe?
I feel like I'm a good person for this because although I have gotten myself into some situationships, I hate casual hookups. Like I'm a person, it might be my Cancer energy, but I'm a person who, when I go out, I don't want to go home with a random stranger. I don't like being touched. I don't like it. Like I like more of a connection. Like I'd rather a guy be like, do you want to go get a drink, than like me meet someone and then be like, do you want to come over after this? So again, I kind of think it goes back to boundaries. Like it's okay if like somebody is interested in you and they kind of come about it the wrong way in your brain, you can be upfront and be like, take me to dinner first. Like you can make it into a joke. It doesn't have to be like, or if it's a situationship where you're sick and tired of it, like we said kind of before, just have a conversation about it if that's something that you want to talk about. And if it's, you know, how Brandon harshly let us know.
I also think with this one, it's like, this could be bad advice. This could be very bad advice. But if I'm going on a date with somebody, I'm not transparent about my expectations on a first date. I would rather them drop me off and be disappointed that I didn't invite them upstairs than for me to start off the day and be like, by the way, I don't hook up with anybody.
I would never do
like,
that.
I don't think if you're going on a date with somebody, you don't owe them anything. If you're like, I don't really know how I feel about this person, but I'm going to go on the date and see how I feel after, that is okay. And if they're disappointed by something you say at the end of a date, or they're like, oh, I really thought like we were going to like fuck after this, how they react to a boundary that then you set is so telling of whether you want to be involved with that person. If they're giving you the ick because they're so clearly like thinking that they're like gonna bang you after the first date, you don't have to talk to that person. You don't have to do anything with them. Versus if they like drop you off and they're like, all right, have a good night, and they don't even try, that might be like, wow, like that was kind of classy. Or sometimes that might be like, ew, he's a pussy. It all depends. It depends person by person, but like with those kind of boundaries, I think you let them shake out and see how they react to them.
Yeah.
Alrighty, what was our next one? Okay. So how to be happy being single. This is tough. I think in general, like your relationship status and happiness don't always need to equate, and people need to remember that. People who are single are not necessarily unhappy, and people who are in relationships are not necessarily happy.
That's the only answer. Like that is such a good answer.
Like I just don't think that it equates. So it's like, how to be happy single. If you're not happy single, I'm going to tell you right now, you're not going to be happy in a relationship.
Yeah.
And I know people are like, no, that's not true. Like, I'm with someone that makes me happy. Back to what I said earlier. Your happiness cannot be contingent on someone else. At the end of the day, you enter this world alone, you die alone. It's dark, but it's true. Who you choose to spend time with while you're here, that's amazing. That's a choice that you need to make. But you only have yourself. So if you can't figure out how to make yourself happy, you're not going to be able to make yourself happy in a relationship. It can help. It can help distract you, but you're still going to have to face the demons in your closet.
Damn, Brandon, take us to
that's
church.
That was good.
All right.
Well, how do you navigate being the single friend?
Well, I think it's fun. Kind of going off what Brandon just said, if you're happy with yourself, you're not really gonna, I mean, yes, you guys are all in relationships, but I'm happy myself where I can hang out with all of you guys and your boyfriends in one room. It's fine.
Yeah.
And I also think it's very important to still surround yourself with single friends.
Yes.
Because I've noticed, like, yes, I've gone out with my friends who have boyfriends, but sometimes I'll go home at the end of the night and I'm like, wow, I guess I didn't really talk to anyone or didn't meet anyone because I was with a couple. But when you go out with your single friends, you're reminded that, oh, okay, like, we can talk to guys, we can do these other things. I think just surround yourself with your single friends. But don't, just because your friends are in relationships, it's still fine. They're still your friends.
But
And-
also,
No,
go ahead.
Okay. I'm just, as someone who was once the single friend for 26 years and isn't anymore, I value the single friend so much. I value all my friends, but like, I'm a type of person who, like, there's a night where it is for the girls. And for the girls' nights, I'm calling up all my single friends first. I love being a wingman. I love going out with my single friends. I love hearing about who my there was a reason why I was like, Bailey's Boys, we need a segment every week. I get excited to hear what's going on because, like, when you're in a relationship that you're super happy with, like, that's amazing. But like, it's fun to live vicariously also through your friends who are like going through the tumultuous chaos of dating too. So I think like you also need to have like good friends and relationships who know how to balance it. Like, I never want to be like the person who's making my single friends uncomfortable. It's like, I never want to be that person who's asking every time, can my boyfriend come? Or saying every night, I'm leaving early, I'm going to go meet up with them. Like, there are nights where you need to dedicate your time to your friends. And I feel like that makes your single friend feel like really comfortable and really valued too.
Also, reach out. Like, there is nothing wrong with texting a friend and being like, hey, I know I've been with my boyfriend a lot, but like, do you want to hang? Like, it's like, one of my favorite things to do in the whole world is go out to eat with Bailey. Like, it is my favorite thing. Like, when it's on the calendar, I look forward to it. It's like, spend time with your single friends. Like, be stupid. I cannot talk today.
Got it.
Spend time with all of your friends, but like, especially your friends who like are single Pringles.
Yeah.
I love you, Bailey.
As the single friend, how I said, make sure you have friends kind of like me. Like, make sure your friends that are in relationships aren't treating you different because you're single. It's like, if they're constantly, your like relationship friends are like constantly making plans that are like, feel very exclusive. Like, sorry, it's double date night, or it's date night, or we're only inviting couples to this. If that's happening every single time, those friends are not being considerate of how you feel in like your situation.
They also probably need to go.
Yeah, I was about to say, if a friend is making you feel bad for being single, that's a crazy thing.
Sounds like hell.
Yeah, that is absurd.
When their entire life becomes a man and they continuously remind you of it and they only center their plans and honestly aesthetic in life around that, that goes back deeper to the dating questions of that insecurity. So alrighty, so we're kicking it off now, jumping into nightlife questions. So this person asked what the best place is to have a birthday celebration in a big group. And before I let anyone else talk, I'd like to tell you what not to do. And that is to not have a birthday dinner at a restaurant. If you have a large group and it's not a prefix menu, do not even bother do it. Don't split the bill. Just don't do it.
I made a whole TikTok about this when I said, can we cancel big birthday dinners? I do not feel like there is anything less personal than sitting at a table that is this long with 12 chairs. And I'm not even sitting near the birthday person sometimes, and I don't even like spending time with them. I think if you have a place where you can host, whether it's your own or you can like kind of ask a friend like, hey, would you I know that's an awkward conversation, but like if you have a house or an apartment where you could gather everybody, I think that's better than a birthday like dinner. Birthday brunches, I kind of feel the same way for the same reason, but I feel like brunches, they're a little more like, let's get fucked up and like have a chaotic time. Whereas like dinner sometimes just feels so much more formal than brunch.
Yeah, if there's like appetizers and entrees, like brunch is a casual meal. You can get pancakes for the table or eggs. Like, I don't know, it's less commitment than like doing appetizers and full entrees. You know how I feel about this. Any party over 6, I do not want to go to dinner with you. That is way too many people. I don't want to worry about stressing out the wait staff, figuring out how we're paying the bill. So for me, anything over 6 is a no. But I do think like doing it at someone's house, or even if you met at a place for just drinks and no food, like, hey, everybody, can we meet at this bar at 8 o'clock? And
yeah, like if you don't have
that.
a place to host, just pick a bar and be like, let's all meet here at 10 o'clock.
Or go on a trip. We have some of the best times ever when we are on vacation, even if something as chill and you can do your city equivalent, but as like Atlantic City, where it's so simple. You get 4 girls together, 4 guys, whatever your group is. Y'all get a hotel room and you meet at the bar or the club later, and it is a 10 out of 10 time.
Birthday trips was the number one in my pyramid, and I stand by it. A birthday trip, oh, it's just great. It's you buy new outfits for everything. You get so many new Instagrams. You have an obnoxious thing to say when you're on the trip, like, we're here for Bailey's birthday. Like, it's so much more fun.
And core memories too. You just get like
Yeah.
full of memories and inside jokes, which is really nice. Oh, is it my turn to read? Okay. How to be the best wing woman for your single friend on a night out.
Well, Brandon was the best wingman I've ever had when I met my boyfriend. We met him at a joint event. Brandon brought me to an event, whatever. We met through a mutual friend. And I remember we were like bar hopping and we were like losing people each bar we went to of our group. Like this person went home. This person was like, oh, this is the last bar I'm going to go to. And I knew that I wanted to be with Jake. I was like, I don't know how I'm going to keep this going. And I literally remember texting Brandon and I was like, this is the only favor I'm going to ask you. Can you please just come to the next bar? You don't even have to drink. Just get a drink. Like give me an in to get to this bar with this guy and then you can leave. And Brandon got one drink. He took one sip and he was like, okay, well, I'm going to go home. And you just got to you got to do it. Even if you don't, he didn't stay the whole time. He got a drink. He compromised. He was like, I want to go home, but I'll do one little thing. And that's how it started.
I do think I'm a good wingman. And I'm going to say something like corny and cute, but it's like, it's easy to wingman when you like love your friends.
Yeah.
Like I could easily wingman for any of you because like you all have so much to offer. Like what a treat. Like even if it's like you want to bang someone, it's like, oh, you're getting to fuck my friends. Like let me tell you all about how amazing your night's gonna be. Or like even if it's more deep, but like I don't know. I think for me, I'm a gay man in a predominantly female friend group, and like I feel like this is going to sound toxic, but it's true. Like sometimes it's easy for me to wingman because I feel like straight men are very not intimidated by me in a good way. Like they're like, oh, like this is like this cute little gay guy, like talking to me, like his friend's really cute too, like all of this stuff. And it's just like an easy leeway. But I think like being a good wingman for your friend, it's like, one, don't embarrass them. That is the number one thing. I hate when people are like, oh my God, did Casey tell you about the time? Stop. Don't do that. That's annoying. Like I say, like when you're wingmanning, almost talk to the person like you're interested in them, but then suddenly like switch gears and be like, oh, you work in finance? So does Bailey.
Yeah.
Who's Bailey? My friend right there. Like, but like less obvious. Like find things that you like have in common with them, because if you have something in common with them, the friend you're trying to wingman for probably does too. And like you can like build something up. I don't know. I think that like works well.
I also think if you're single, don't be afraid to like matchmake with your single friend as well.
Yeah.
Like I know I stoop to Casey all the time because she's a gorgeous girl. I'm like, oh, you should meet my friend Casey. Like it looks like if it's your friend's type, why not just help him out? I'm like, oh, I think you like my friend Casey. I think you like my friend Lindsay.
Yeah, take one for the team.
It's such like an ego task for me too. I'm like, ooh, let me see if I can like successfully do this. I like love like low key pimping my friends out and being like texting in the morning, be like, did you fuck that guy? Like getting so like that feeling of validation. Like I knew it. Like I set that up.
Okay, so now we're going to jump into like work career-based questions. So this first one is 27 and recently laid off, feeling hopeless in my search. Any advice? I feel like Lindsay and I can speak a lot on this because I was just recently unemployed and you gave me
Fired. Big F.
Do you want to go first?
No, pop off. You're fresh.
Yeah, I was just unemployed for 5 months. The best advice I can give, and I don't even know if I've been far enough out from it to give better advice, but you have to protect your mental health. And I know that is so hard because bills are involved, money is involved, your future is involved. Those are all very real problems that can't just be wished away, but you have to protect your mental health. Looking back on those 4 months, like I was for a good month and a half in a very dark place, to the point where like my boyfriend and mom were texting on the side being like, do we have to do an intervention? Like, she seems not to be good. Like, I look back and I'm like, wow, I wish I protected my peace a little bit better. Like I can be stressed about money and my future and my job, but there does have to be a line where you're like, I actually literally have to protect my future self, because I'm thinking bad thoughts and I'm putting myself in a bad place. So my only advice is like, you really got to protect your brain.
And I'll say on top of that, while protecting yourself, you need to be real. Being delusional when you are unemployed, or when you are, what's even worse, is laid off or fired from a job, where Casey said, like, yes, protect your peace. I know you have bills. I know you have things to get done. Remember that you have bills, that you have things to get done. All while saying, I got this. I can do this. My dad used to tell me something, and he would go, you do not need this job. And that's a crazy thing for your parent to say to you. But he's so right, because you're going to find another job. You need this job to pay your bills. But with mental health, like, you don't need this, babe. You're better than this. You're bigger than this. Take that and push through. But also at the same time, like, if you don't have a job and you have $50, don't go to the bar. Save your $50. If you're complaining about something because you're worried about how you're going to eat your next meal, but your friends are going to Taco Bell, why are you getting Taco Bell? Save your money and get groceries. Like, prioritize bills, prioritize things that matter. Ask your family and friends for help if you can. I'm going to be very honest with this team. Brandon has paid our rent before, because I've come to him and said, Brandon, I need help. And if you don't have a support system like that, there are always ways for you to get through it. But if you do have a support system like that, like, life, like, you can depend on your village. Like, don't be afraid to ask for help.
One thing I want to say too, to give credit to both of you too, and this is something, check your ego. I understand when you're unemployed for a long time, I would never tell somebody to settle for a job that wasn't for them. But if you are getting to the point where you do not know how you are going to pay your next bill, one thing I love about the two of y'all, Lindsay started door dashing. She was like, I'm not going to.
Don't tell them that. I did Instacart. No.
No.
Embarrassed. A job is a job. Let's
But
get
like,
this bread.
Casey started nannying. Casey said, I'm going to figure out a way to freelance. When
Yeah.
I was unemployed during 2020, I couldn't get a job for shit. The pandemic just started. Everyone on a hiring freeze. I worked retail. I made $8.65 an hour, but you know what? That $8.65 for that time was paying off things that I needed to pay for. It's like, check your ego at the door. If you need to settle sometimes for like a temporary, you think of it as temporary. This is a temporary thing I need to do to make ends meet. You can do that. It doesn't need, you don't need to find the perfect job. You might not find the perfect job right away. It would almost be better to like kind of wait a little bit if you can, and like find something that can just pay your bills minimally.
But yeah, again, if you can ask, I regret this every single day. My parents yell at me because there have been multiple instances where I have not had any money and I have not come to them for help. And they've always said to me, if we can, we will. And they could have. And I was having Brandon pay my rent and I was door dashing. And I didn't need to do that. And I'm very blessed. I'm not saying that as like, that's not a brag. Like, it's a blessing. So if you have those blessings, like, put your pride to the side and just like, you can do it. Like, ask for help. Or DoorDash. Kind of lit.
Nanny, Instacart, all of it.
There's
Uber.
a lot of options.
You like a guy from work and you kiss them at a party. Should you reach out / be scared of being rejected?
I've done that.
I'm not a fan of the whole getting with someone at work thing. That is a personal boundary that is not for everybody. But in the corporations I worked at, and I don't want to see people every day that I've had like a romantic thing with. And I know plenty of people who've met their spouse out of work. Like, they literally worked at the same company, met, and got married. So I'm not knocking anyone. It's not personally my taste. But Bailey, I feel like you could touch on this a little bit.
Yeah, I just think don't shit where you eat and don't eat where you shit.
Yeah.
Not everything is like the office, and you're not going to meet your Pam, you're not going to meet your Jim. And if you're on the same payroll, don't. That's just my
I love
thing.
that.
Just keep it professional.
Like, this person says, like, should I reach out / be scared of being rejected by someone that they kissed at a work party? Put the ball in their court. If they come to you and you have like an unspeakable connection that you think this could be the one, go for it. But I personally wouldn't pursue that, not because of anything else other than the fact that they're a coworker and it could get messy for you.
And it will get messy.
Yeah.
It most certainly will. People will talk about you. You'll have a whole different attitude at the office. You'll be scared of your boss. And I'm speaking from experience. Do not do it. Unless you think it is Pam and Jim quality, just pick someone else. There are billions of people on the planet. Go forth and be great.
Is your phone dead?
Sorry, girls. My phone's dead.
I can ask it. I was
wild.
looking right at it. The next one is what the advice on having a 9-to-5 / work-life balance would be.
Advice. Whenever I interview people for my job, I always ask them, what do you feel, like, how do you feel about work-life balance? Because you have to, at the end of the day, go to work and set that aside, and you have to have a life outside. Once it's 5 o'clock, because it will consume you. If you have a job that consumes you, like Lindsay, I know you work a very high stress job, and sometimes you'll be like, oh, on the weekend, like I have to do this. Like it shouldn't, you just have to separate those two, but it's different because of your job. But I think you have to, like, it's all about your mental health too.
Yeah. I think something I've seen all over TikTok, and I think you do it really well, Bailey, is you have a morning routine. Like, it doesn't need to be my 5 to 9 before my 9 to 5, but it's like, if you have the time where, if you're a morning person, I'm not. When I worked a 9 to 5, I was sleeping until the latest I could possibly sleep before I had to get up and get ready and commute. But if you're a morning person, like, you can get up and do a 6 a.m. yoga class and then write in your journal and then make a full smoothie, and you have like all of that personal time before you even open your laptop. That's amazing. That's not me. I'm envious of those people. But like, if you can establish a clear routine in the morning, I feel like that helps you so much feel like more like productive and more in tune and more balanced throughout the whole day.
Right.
I think it goes back to like boundaries too. Like my boyfriend does not talk about work when he gets home, because if he starts to talk about work, then he starts to think about it, and then he starts and it consumes him. So he literally is like, it was a good day, and he leaves it at that, and that's his personal boundary. So like, figure out, like, you are really good, Bailey, about going to bed early because you wake up really early, and that's important to you, and that's a boundary that you've set in your life, and it helps you. And like, you really do have to, no one at your job is going to give you your work-life balance. It is all about you creating it.
But also, like, piggybacking off of that, sometimes if you can't find that balance, you can find someone at work, which is like crazy. Like, for example, my boss is like girl boss extraordinaire. Like, she's smart, she's kind, she's like, we all make a joke of like her being like Mama Eagle, like in our group chat, because she like literally watches over us. Like, she is that girl. And it's like, it is so comforting to know that I have a boss who, like, if something really hits the fan, I can go to her and be like, listen, like, I need a mental health day. Like, she has told me multiple times, Lindsay, go take a lap. Like, and I'm not saying that that's everybody's boss. I'm very lucky. But it's like, find that comfort person at work if you can't find that balance, just to like get their number, shoot them a text and be like, hey girl, today sucks. And it's like, sometimes that can help you, like, just take a breather throughout the day and be like, somebody else gets me.
All right, let's get through our health and life segment pretty quickly. Advice on body image as you hit your late 20s and pressure from social media.
Yeah. Everyone is not the same. No two people are alike, and you have to remember that. And I think it's also important that you are in your late 20s. You are not 16 anymore, and you shouldn't look like your 16-year-old body. You shouldn't look like your 18-year-old body. If you look like you did in college,
Text me that before bed.
You also, if you look at yourself in college, you were drinking a lot, you weren't eating a lot. If you were overeating, you were also probably walking a lot. You cannot compare yourself to yourself. I mean, yes, you can, you can't, but don't do that. I just think it feels, I just kind of had a little brain fart there. I'm so sorry.
I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
Like, if I could give anybody a tip, the quickest way for me to ruin my mental health is to look at a photo of me from 2021. If I'm ever in a great headspace, I'm like, ooh, put yourself in a bad mood. Pull up the album from 2021 and look at how much skinnier you look. So I'm like, okay, yeah, I wanna unalive now.
Yeah.
I think that's a really interesting perspective. Like, don't compare yourself to old versions of yourself either. Like, we are supposed to grow and change. Like, it's okay to use things as motivators. Like, oh, I really liked how I looked there, and I'm going to try to find a healthy way to get back to that. That's what I'm trying to do right now. I'm like, what was I doing then that I'm not doing now? Oh, I was like being really active during the day. I wasn't just sitting at home. Now I work from home. Let me get out of my house more and like be on my feet more. That's a healthy boundary to be like, I want to get back to that place.
Also, pick out things that like maybe your younger self would have hated that you like. Like,
Yeah.
I used to be super, super skinny, and I put a little bit of weight on, which, like, that's my business. But sometimes I look at myself and I'm like, wow, like, this kind of looks great. So comparing yourself to your old self, being like, I have like a womanly body now,
Right, you're
not
a
feeling
woman.
like a kid. kind of like makes me feel good.
Yeah, and I think it's also important to note, like when you're getting in your late 20s, your body's preparing yourself to have children, so your body's going to change too. Like your hips need to get wired. I mean, I don't need to go into
Casey,
all
your
that.
body's preparing to have children.
And
Pop
we're
one out.
we're so much more to, like, there's so much more to us than your bodies.
Absolutely.
Like, in summer, I've said this once and I don't completely agree with it, but like your physical appearance is not the most important thing about you. To me, it's actually like one of the least important things about you. We live in a world where unfortunately it doesn't feel like that and puts pressure on it, but it's like, there's so many more things to worry about. Like, I truly think, as corny as it sounds, be a better person. Focus on being a good person in your heart, and the rest will come. You're going to look good if you're a nicer, happier person at the end of the day, no matter what.
Right.
Yeah, like think about all of your best friends. Like think about all of us. Like, do I love any of you because of the way that you guys look? Like, yeah, it's a great plus that we're all beautiful, but I don't think about Bailey and I'm like, oh, I like her because her body looks really good. Like,
Right.
no, that wouldn't even make my list of all the things I love about you. Like, when you think about your friends and what you like about them, think about yourself that same way. Like, your friends wouldn't describe you with your looks.
Yeah.
The other question after this is just in general advice on comparing yourself to others. And I feel like I can really like touch on this because like my career is social media and I'm constantly comparing every single part of it to other people who like do this job. Like, this person gets more views than me. This person gets more likes than me. This person's going on a red carpet. I'm not. And that has been like the death of me sometimes, where it's like comparison truly is the thief of joy. And I literally have written in my TikTok notes, like, we need medicine for comparison. Like, I wish I could take a pill and be like, oh, I don't compare myself to anybody, but it comes and goes. But like, if you're focusing way too much on other people, you're only hindering your own growth. Your path is not supposed to look the same as the person next to you. Mm-hmm. And what I try to reframe my mind is, an opportunity from someone else doesn't take away from an opportunity from me. Mm-hmm. Like, just because that person got something, use it as motivation. If somebody did something that you're like, wow, that's really cool, I wish that happened to me, I'm going to try to do something now where I can get a similar opportunity. Like, when I see people now, like, getting a huge brand partnership or a huge opportunity to do something really fun and creative, I'm like, what do they do that's getting them that? Is it they post really good videos? Like, how can I make my videos better? Like, use it as motivation.
Like a healthy, not competition, but like healthy competition. Mm-hmm. Like, honestly, like inspiration instead of a comparison. Because comparing yourself to anybody or anything, that could like kill you.
I think it's also like important to remember that like whoever you're comparing yourself to is comparing themselves to someone else who's then comparing themselves to someone else. Like, it goes all the way up the chain. So what you're comparing to, they might not even be happy with where they're at.
Mm-hmm. And our last question, are you guys in therapy / are you on any medications for mental health? No.
And we all should be.
We 100%. And that is like truly a goal of mine. It's been on the top of my to-do list. And it's so easy for me to be like, it's really hard to find a therapist. It is. It really is. It's very hard. But like, that's something I need to like stop being like, Brandon, that's not an excuse. You found a personal trainer, you found friends, you found a boyfriend. You can take some time and find a therapist.
Don't yell at us.
It's true though. It's like, that's always my
true.
excuse. I'm like, oh, I don't want to research. I don't want to call people. And I'm like, okay, fine. Suffer instead. Like if I would just put 3 hours, because that's probably a great head start, 3 hours to just research people one day and then make phone calls if I can, that would probably get what I need to get done. But instead I just suffer every week. And I'm like, I wish I had someone to talk to this about, and I don't. So that's a goal of mine for 2024 is honestly to start seeing a therapist.
Same.
I'm jumping on that. Yeah.
We could all
I love
benefit.
that for us.
Wow.
And like, I feel like we kind of like, I almost want one of us to do it because like, I feel like it's going to kickstart the rest of us, not in a copying way, but like, I know that we could all benefit from therapy. And if one of y'all told me like, Brandon, this is really changing my life, like you really should do it, I would listen to you. I would listen to anybody, but like you guys, I would be like, I definitely want to do it if it's helping them.
Mm-hmm. So we all need therapy.
We definitely do. But I feel like this was a good venting session. I feel like I learned a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like this was advice for like honestly me. And
Yeah. Well, second week in a row, Lindsay cried.
Yeah.
Well,
You girl.
we hope this was helpful for everybody at home. If it's not, then don't hire us as your therapist because we don't know what the fuck we're doing. But we'll be back next week with our regularly scheduled programming. We'll be back with immunity necklaces, pyramid rankings, gossip, shit talking, weekend recaps. But until then, keep everything we said between us, girlies.
Yes.
Bye guys.
Bye.